Hello everyone, my name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
Today we have a video that has been requested like at least 10 times over the last couple days. I haven't seen it, but it's from a channel that covered this specific incident. And from what I understand, the guy who owns this channel, basically the content creator, was involved in this incident. So I don't know anything about it beyond that. That's all I know.
Okay.
So
Well,
let's
based
check
on
it
the
out.
words, like it says, diving and free diving in overhead environments can and often does lead to serious injury or death. Is there a training for free divers to dive in an overhead environment, or is that considered always off limits?
Well, I mean, you can always do anything once.
Well, I don't know. Is there like a protocol that says, oh, you want to be a free diver that then goes into the overhead environment? This is like a different level of training, or is it just considered we never do that for free divers? And I don't know. We're not free divers.
Right. Let's check it out.
We are going to discuss the real-life scenario of a missing person in a flooded underwater cave and the ensuing rescue
Dive
in today's
Saga.
episode on the Dive Saga channel.
Check out Dive Saga, by the way. Cool channel. Shout out to this guy. I don't know his name. Hopefully he'll say his name. There you go, Nick. Shout out to Nick.
Definitely.
Super cool intro.
Yeah.
We don't have an intro.
Well, we have our editor just
Well, hello
throws them out
guys
there.
and welcome back to another episode on the Dive Saga channel. Usually on this channel I report to you my scuba diving adventures. Usually dive travel, photography and everything career
Patty,
in
course
scuba.
director.
Today is a little bit different. I actually had to consider whether I wanted to make this episode at all because I went on a bit of a strange dive about a week ago, but after careful consideration I think it's okay to share that experience with you.
Oh.
Last week, Easter Sunday at 4:19 p.m., I received a message that a diver
4:20.
named Martin had already been missing for over an hour. Martin is a free diver, which means he used no scuba equipment, and went in the local freshwater caves. He was last seen by his friends an hour ago. The support system here on this small island is such that everybody has to pull together and simply deal with whatever emergency is presented to us. There is an episode on this channel about a plane crash, luckily without fatal ending. And in that episode, you will also see that whenever an airplane evacuation is needed at night, the local population
Like
pulls
mine.
together their resources, namely their vehicles, and lights up the airstrip.
How cool is
this
that?
This is super cool. It's one of the nice things about living here.
Really?
But what's
Awesome.
difficult about emergencies in a situation like this, in a place like this, is that sometimes finding the right people and doing the right thing can be a little tricky. I am not a search and recovery diver. I'm not a forensic diver. I am a cave diver, and so is my partner Gabby, and I also have my buddy Steven in this video. When we received the message, as I said, the diver was already missing for an hour. Now,
Can't be good.
in overhead environments with no direct vertical access to the surface, an hour is of course a lifetime.
So we had a video a few weeks ago where we discussed what is the standard response time to call in for 911, whatever, rescue, if someone is missing past the dive plan. And I mentioned that I'm okay with waiting an hour if you're on a rebreather. And people criticize me for that. It's like, are you crazy? Not even 1 minute. Clearly not divers, because you go over the plan by a few minutes. If you bail out, especially, you will go over the plan. And that's what I mean. Because when we plan for it, I mean, I don't know if this is how you do it, but this is how I do it. If I say, hey, we're going to go in this cave and we're going to do a 2-hour dive, I'm not planning for deco when I say 2 hours. I'm planning for we're going to have a regular dive where we go in and we come out and our rebreather works, which is almost every single dive that we do, right? So if you're 1 hour and 45 minutes in, and your rebreather breaks, and now your deco pushes you 20 minutes or whatever past time, that's still fine to me, right? Alarms wouldn't go off because you missed your deadline on a rebreather by 20 minutes or so. That's why I said, look, if you're gone by an hour past the time, then I will be concerned and start calling rescue, right? But 10, 20 minutes or whatever, it's not a big deal. But if you're a free diver,
5 minutes. I mean, really, few minutes. I mean, they can only hold their
Right.
breath for a few minutes. So
Right.
even if it's like a few minutes, 5 minutes.
if I'm expecting you to come out in 3 minutes and it's minute number 8 and you're not out,
that's a big problem, I would think, for a
you're
free
a goner,
diver.
I think.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different set of rules. Now, if you're open circuit, then would that be different? Like open circuit, you're not planning for like emergency deco the way we plan as CCR. They're not gonna fail. You know what I'm saying?
I guess it should be part of the plan.
I wonder. We need to get to the bottom of this.
We will when we go to Mexico and we talk to Mike and Randall, and let's really think
The actual
that out
experts.
further.
All right.
Especially when you are freediving, in other words, when you have no breathing supply. So we figured we set up side mount and cave diving equipment just to have it so that we could go to the site. So I have a little map of the cave that Martin went missing in. This is not necessarily to scale, this is purely for illustrative purposes. The entrance here, where at that point law enforcement, municipal police, national police was already present.
Whoa.
We had to descend down a little ladder and
CGI?
then to a tight crawl space at certain points not more than a foot high to get to the actual area where the water starts. This is a good 5 to 10 minute crawl, more or less on your stomach. Nevertheless, that's where we
rough.
assessed the situation
Yikes.
and got a briefing from his freediving buddies of what the direction was that the diver was missing in.
No, but these guys
So
are in a
we
little
then
island.
exited
Why
and
do they have to
formulated
free
a
dive in a
plan.
cave?
Again, cave diving can be done safely
Ah,
if you respect certain limits. The limits we agreed on were at the very least not to dive for more than 30 minutes total. That's 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out. Of course, another limit that we put on ourselves was we would not venture past a restriction where two divers could not pass side by side.
Okay, that's their
Best
own
case
rules.
scenario,
No problem.
we find the person in an air pocket and can try to get them out safely. Worst case scenario, and to be honest, the one that we assumed is that we identify the remains of the person and then can work on a plan that is less urgent to remove them.
Right.
At this point, Martin is already missing for 2.5 hours.
Oh, man,
So
that's-
we start to get ready and request
he's in an
the
air pocket.
municipality to bring a generator on site so that we can run a line with fixed floodlights inside the cave. Cave diving is already very dangerous, but it is definitely dangerous if you do not have a decent amount of daylight.
I really respect what he just said.
What?
No, but I respect what he just said. We'll get to that comment in a second. But you know what I really like? He said cave diving is already really dangerous. And there's a lot of cave divers, and you could be one of them, Gus, I don't know, that don't like to quite say that, and I do. We've talked about this before. I would rather acknowledge that it is absolutely extremely dangerous, because it is. And then you are sort of being humble that way and not thinking, it's not that dangerous. I can push this. I don't have to follow all those rules. That's why I like that attitude. Mm-hmm. I don't know what he means about the daylight, so let's continue. I heard, because it shouldn't matter in a cave if it's daylight or
Right,
not.
that's what he said. It's like cave diving is already dangerous, but it's worse if there's no light.
Well, maybe
Like, what?
maybe getting
What are you talking
in,
about?
getting all the equipment set up and all that up on the land is all I could think of.
I guess. So.
Real, or in this case artificial, to go back to. At that point, the sun had also set. At that point, we also had our plans together and we could already start moving diving equipment into the cave. Again, all the dive equipment had to get through the crawl space, basically on our belly, pushing our side mount equipment in front of us while wearing our side mount harness and all our equipment on us.
I love that he was
We got
there.
to the
It's
staging
not a third party
area,
or whatever.
the area where the floodlights were set up, where we also
They
had
already
law
have a vigil
enforcement and volunteers present, because you do need service support for things like this, and you do need people who know exactly when you enter the water and exactly when you plan to come out. At 6:50, at this point, Martin is already missing for 4 hours. We are ready to begin the dive. So our equipment
about
is
how long
lowered
that
into the
it just
water.
takes that
We
long.
gear up and we
Set up.
do our final checks. As we venture into the first overhead passage, we of course lay our line and we get to an air dome. So a part of the cave that is only partially submerged where we can stand up. This is also very porous rock, so the air there is breathable, and someone is able to point us in the direction of where Martin was last seen.
But that may go over some people's head. The fact that it's porous means I guess it's allowing new air to come in.
Correct.
And it's refreshing.
A small tunnel that goes downwards out of the air dome. This is definitely a bit of a restriction, but it was about 6 feet wide. So we dive into the passage downwards, and as we continue, it gets increasingly restrictive.
Tighter.
The passage also takes a strong turn to the left.
The freediver's all the way there?
I notice some percolation.
I don't know.
So I notice particles starting to snow down from the
air.
ceiling. This is not uncommon in areas that aren't scuba dived, and the freedivers, of course, don't exhaust any bubbles, but our bubbles dislodge some sediment from the ceiling. As we are putting a tie off to take a turn to the left, we get an immediate silt out. The bottom composition was super fragile, and any cave diver knows that in case of a silt out, you abort. So we turn.
I like the way this guy's talking.
Okay.
And I know you're.
No, I mean,
you're
I don't
not,
have a problem with the way he's
listen to
talking,
what he's
but
saying. Maybe their rules are, in the case of a silt out, we abort. But
and I respect that, but he said every cave diver knows that if you get a silt out, you're aboard. Like,
no.
what?
So if there's already existing line and there's a silt out and you can't see, you okay the line
Keep going.
and keep going. But if they're laying line, even in a silt out, I mean, can you lay line in a complete silt out?
I mean,
You
yeah,
got to block
you can,
your hand
but
and you're just bumping in. I mean, I don't
hard.
know. I don't
It's hard.
think so. I mean, well,
No,
we've
you
done it.
can.
We've done it actually a little bit.
Not only we've done it, but you know, like in the El Diablo, the cave in Mexico, it took him like a week to find the entrance because it was zero vis.
Bumping
Just
around.
bumping and bumping. And Kyle was the one who found the opening to go to it, and that's what the briefing for that cave is. You okay the line and stay on the right. If you go on the left, you die. That was the briefing from Herman. So it's really, really tight. But yeah, so I totally respect. By the way, I don't want to come out as a hater. You know, I totally respect it. Like if it's their rules, if they're saying we only dive for 30 minutes, we only go through passages where two people fit next to each other. We only you can have your own rules. I mean, it's no problem with that. If we run into a silt out, we get out. If that's your rule, that's okay. But that's not a cave diving rule. Like if you run into a silt out, especially if there's flow, you literally can just sit there and wait, and the silt out will just go away with the flow. If there's no flow, you just keep swimming, and you swim out of the silt out and keep your dive going.
Yep.
Silt outs are not a big deal.
The dive. We get back to the first air dome and see if there is a way for the sediment to settle. Unfortunately, in this cave, there is no water circulation, or not very much, and so the sediment simply lingers. Yeah, the silt out persists.
Okay.
This is, in my opinion, at that point, also likely what got Martin in trouble when he went down this passage. The sediment doesn't settle, and we call the dive. That means that at around 7:40, we are back out of the cave entirely.
That's tough.
This is also where, me personally, I tap out. I told authorities that as far as my cave diving experience, this is what we as a team can safely do.
Okay.
No problem.
And I had the very tough question from the buddies of the missing diver of Martin, whether we were already giving up.
I actually respect that.
Me too.
I think that even though it's an emergency, even though you are perhaps the best or most knowledgeable diver in the island, I think that the fact that you're respecting your own limits and what you're comfortable with, and you're not willing to put yourself in danger that now you could have 2 victims or 3 victims or 4 if it's a team going in, is the right thing.
Definitely.
So total respect for that. If that's what you're comfortable with, no problem. That's good. I like that.
Now, of course, they didn't mean it in that way. There are, of course, friends whose friend is missing, and so in their eyes, all that matters is the search. in my eyes and the eyes of our team, all that matters is that we all do this dive, but also all return safely.
Of course.
So cave
100%.
divers don't give up, but cave divers do run into limits, which they then respect.
Yes.
At this point, the search is discontinued for the day. Martin is already missing for 5 hours. So at this point, he either found a way to take care of himself and maybe it isn't that urgent, or he didn't and then it also isn't that urgent.
Totally.
Either way, everybody leaves the site.
It's not at the 5 hour
and
mark, though.
reconvenes the next day. So another team decides to give it a try. To my understanding, it is roughly the same dive plan. And around noon, again, I was not present for this, they descend down the same passageway. While they are in the water, the surface support notices something really strange. Is that your boat?
No, on the other side.
Martin
Far
was
away.
actually on a boat drinking.
Have you ever done an interview before? No?
Wow, he was in there for
I'm also
22
not trained
hours.
for this. Another sunset.
Yeah, in Utila. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
beautiful one.
Yeah. Can
See
you
what
tell
happened.
me a little bit from the moment you realized that there was a problem until the moment you got out?
Yeah. I was looking for oxygen, and at the same time I was thinking like, okay, I didn't know this place, so I didn't came by this place, and I was thinking about making a turn, so I don't know. And
By the way, I gotta pause right. I know it's an important part, but this is important. What I'm about to say. This guy looks like a freediver.
Absolutely.
Every freediver I've seen looks like this guy.
He could be the freediving model of like, this is what you should
Yeah.
look like to be a
If I go to
freediver.
Wikipedia for freediving, there's a picture of Martin in there.
He is Mr. Freediver.
And here I think, yeah, I understand.
I was thinking
it
the
was
same
The
thing.
worst moment and the bad things happen, and I get lost.
And then what?
And then,
Do I look like freediver?
Bro.
hopefully, I find like a hole, oxygen hole with the light is very easy because you saw them from far away. It looked like chrome things, like silver color from underwater. And I saw a little hole like not too far away. I can get me initially out of the water. So I didn't get cold. I have oxygen, good one, because it was a bit fresh.
Wow.
And
On an air pocket.
so I passed the first hour shouting myself and thinking what I've done and what can I do for this. I rest a bit and then I start to make some apnea around this place, but I was, I was like panic, even if I don't was panic, like wow.
Yeah.
Inside I was not in full form, I was not in good shape
Yep.
to do some good apnea. So my breath was very, very short.
So he wasn't gonna try to
And
get
I
out.
think I explore a lot, but not very far. And every time I get out of this hole, explore, then I come in the hole again to rest. But the more I was thinking about this, and the more I was forgetting everything. Like I was a little bit in shock, and this shock made me a little bit crazy and not understanding everything and not
Understandable.
minding about everything.
Absolutely.
So I was lost in my head, lost in the time, in the direction, and everything at the same time.
Did you know what? Did you have a watch? Did you know what time it was?
No, I didn't get watch, but I know I get lost at 3 p.m. So the time I did everything, it was not so long. I think I found the hole maximum 2 hours later. I was moving a lot, I was doing a lot for 2 hours. And after I say, okay, I have to rest a lot.
Stab
to
myself
be
in
in
the
good
heart.
shape. And I soaked and I was pretty sure it was like at 8 or 9. I say, okay, calm down, go to sleep. And then I get lost in the time. I sleep and I think I sleep well. I was standing on me, but I have some place in this wall. I can push with my arm, I can push with my legs and find some place, put my head in front of me with a mask, like a cushion. And I was sleeping pretty well, even if I wake up every 20 minutes, I was sleeping again. And
Wow.
I soak when I wake up and start to do it again, to make some apnea, to explore the around of the wall.
When he says make some apnea, he's talking about apnea, which is he's freediving to try to find his way out. That's what he's talking about.
I thought it was 3 or 5 in AM, and I think in reality it was maybe already 10 or 11.
How did you get out?
And so it was pretty sad because I have to quit definitively my hole. My hole was very good. It was a good place to survive and wait the rescue. But you know, your brain is like very active, and you say you have to move, you have to move, you have to move.
understand what he's saying?
Another part
Nobody's
say
coming.
You have to stay and
Yeah,
wait
he's gonna
the
leave his
rescue
hole.
because I was.
He's like, my brain was telling me to go out, even though logically it didn't make sense because the hole that I had, I was out of the water. I could sleep. Like, I had safety. I could just wait for a rescuer. So my brain is telling me, like, you got to get out of here. Nobody's coming. Get out of here.
Yes, that's what would go through your mind, right? I mean, tough decision because you leave that safe hole, you may never be able to get back to that hole. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Pretty sure the rescue will come.
And how long do you think you would be able to wait? Imagine that. Like, you don't know. Would you wait until you're just feel like you're exhausted, you thirsty, or you've got all these things working
You
against
just wait
you?
for days.
I mean,
If it's a freshwater cave, you can drink the water. It might not be the cleanest, but I mean, I'd rather have diarrhea and not die. You know, I don't know. I feel like you just wait. And we cover a video in the past. I'm not going to link it at the end, but we cover a video in the past where the guy, they found him like weeks later, and he basically like starved to death, basically. He waited until he passed out and died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you start to thinking about a problem. Maybe the rescue get a problem. Maybe another friend of me try to come and get some problem. So I say, okay, I have to do like a last breath, you know, take a very big one and say,
Go for
I
it.
don't gonna make a turn. I don't return on this place, so I will go far. I have to find oxygen or an exit,
That's
or maybe you don't know
insane.
what happened.
Or die.
So it was pretty sad. I take some time to prepare it because it was like I wanted to give it my best, you know, to do some apnea and to do some apnea. You know what you have to do. You have to be very calm, very unconscious, and take some long and deep breaths. And I was at the opposite of this way. I
No
was
line,
a little bit panic, even
No
if I
air.
was calm. I was
no
panic
visibility,
in
no
my
air,
ears,
no
you know.
line.
So
Did he have a
it
line?
was pretty hard, pretty sad.
Only
to
his
say,
earrings.
okay, I have to go this way, 100%. I have to give it all. We don't know what happened. Wow. And it was like this. I went, and miraculously, like the light, the silver light I was speaking earlier, the silver light you see with the lights when you
So he had a
light
light.
some oxygen hole, you see them from far away, and I was like in my last moment, and I saw it, so it gave me like energized. I swim again, and I get out from like a rat hole, and I have to crawl and everything. You have some roots, you have some rocks and everything, and I fall directly on the place where the diver went in the
Oh
water.
my God.
And it was a little bit magic, a little bit of a good star on my head, and yeah, a little bit of everything.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
And that is how some of us spent our Sunday, Easter and Easter Monday here on Utila this year. What a crazy story, luckily with a positive ending. But the reason I decided to make this episode is, of course, one, because I had Martin's blessing to do so, and it was a way for us to also have that story on record. And it can also serve as a warning that freediving in overhead environments holds extremely high risk.
It does.
And let me also use this opportunity to reiterate that scuba diving in cave environments can also only be safely done if you are properly trained.
Definitely.
Properly trained also to respect your limits.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
That's why I didn't react much. He really
Wow.
nailed it. This guy nailed it. I
Yeah.
think. In
Nick
terms
did a
of
great job. And Martin, wow, dude.
lucky. Lucky.
Wow, when your brain tells you gotta get out of here, you just gave it your all, and he made it out. I do have to point out that even though Martin looks like every freediver I've ever seen, he is actually the first. It might be the first in history freediver that didn't have a GoPro with him. Martin, why didn't you have a GoPro and film this whole thing? It will go viral immediately. Like, come on. I was so hopeful that he said, look, of course I'm a freediver. I had a GoPro. Come on. Of course.
I'll tell you what, he must be a really good freediver.
Oh, yeah.
Because what I didn't get there, and I bet some people are asking, is how far did he have to swim from that safe hole to miraculously getting where they crawled again?
Oh.
Without really, how long was that swim?
And it was so gnarly.
Was that like 3 minutes of?
And how gnarly it was to swim out that even
Through
the
the
cave divers with tanks were like, oh, oops, no, this is too bad.
Had
for
to
me.
go back through that. But I wonder
I'm not doing this.
How long was that?
It's amazing. What a great story. Now I understand why we got like 10 times requests over the last like 24 hours for us to react to it. Thank you. And shout out to Nick, by the way, at Dive Saga as well. Check out his channel. We're going to link it down below. But he pointed out something at the end that was important. And you did ask this question early, which is there a training that freedivers go through for overhead environments?
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's like an actual class, like proper training, but we did have a guy that made a video with the 14 rules to freediving caves. And we reacted to his video back in the day. I'm going to leave it right here so you can check it out.
And also,
is the guy crazy?
Also, congrats for now being the new poster of freediving, I think, after this video.
Good job,
plays.
Martin.